Hello and welcome to another episode of What Travis Says. My name is Travis and let's talk about Doctor Who. More specifically, Season 12, Episode 5, Fugitive of the Judoon. Now, if you have not yet seen this episode, do not watch this video. There are going to be major spoilers if you've somehow managed to avoid them. Okay, so if you're sticking around, you've seen the episode, right? Because, there's some big stuff. When Captain Jack popped up on the screen, my first thought was, that's it. This is what I'm going to do a video on. But that's not even the biggest reveal of the episode. This video is going to be about Jo Martin, who she's actually playing, and how she could possibly be the Doctor. The episode begins with hints that there's not something entirely kosher about Ruth's husband, Lee. Alien police force mercenaries, the Judoon, have come to Earth to capture a dangerous fugitive. But then later in the episode, Ruth, the human, ends up regaining her memories and changing her DNA, and she becomes a Time Lord. Not only that, she becomes the Doctor. As it turns out, Ruth used the chameleon arch to rewrite down to the memory, down to the cellular level. Ruth is human. Until she breaks the glass, she regains her memory, she becomes the Doctor. Ruth has her own The TARDIS and ticks all the boxes when it comes to trying to impress a new companion, not knowing that her companion is the Doctor. We find out that the Judoon are actually working for the Time Lords. Martin's Doctor and Whittaker's Doctor are both scanned. They are both the Doctor. Now, usually in a multi-Doctor Doctor Who story, one of the Doctors is from the future, the other one is from the past. The past Doctor not knowing anything about the future, but the future Doctor remembering the past. But Martin and Whittaker have zero knowledge of one another, and the episode makes a very big effort to push that home. My first thought was, okay, Ruth is definitely not the Doctor. How could that be possible? But the episode goes to extreme lengths to also push that Ruth is the Doctor down to the cellular level. The body scans, the finishing of sentences, knowing of the Time Lords of old. Ruth doesn't know of the of old part because to Ruth, Gallifrey is still thriving and striving. So then where does that put Ruth in the timeline of our Doctor, and how could that even make sense? There are a few notable things to remember about this episode. Like I said, the Time Lords are still around. Whittaker's Doctor had Commander Gat read her mind and see what she saw when she visited Gallifrey, and Martin and Gat were very confused. That is not the Gallifrey that they know. And we've talked about before what usually happens when two Doctors meet. Martin and Whittaker have back and forth, but it's more like a bitter distrust than cheeky banter. And the Doctor is usually fascinated by meeting a self from the future or the past, but maybe it's just because they don't know either of each other's selves. It's just, how does this make sense? Because maybe there's no way they could possibly remember. So the big question, where does Martin's Doctor fit in the Doctor's timeline? Where does she come from? The first option, maybe she's not the Doctor. Just like the chameleon arch turned Ruth into a human with human memories, what if the chameleon arch turned a human into a Time Lord with Doctor memories? It does seem like an extreme plan for the Doctor to turn a human into herself and also give her the TARDIS, but hey, it would make the bioscans make sense. The second option, maybe she's in Whittaker's past. Martin didn't know what a sonic screwdriver was. She also didn't know about the destruction of Gallifrey, so these are all signs that point that Martin is a past incarnation of the Doctor, right? In the classic episodes, we watch William Hartnell, the first Doctor, regenerate into Patrick Troughton, the second Doctor, and Troughton's Doctor is actually the Doctor that invented the sonic screwdriver. So how would Ruth be in the past if she's after the first Doctor but doesn't know what a sonic screwdriver is? The third option, maybe she's a Doctor in a batch of regenerations before the first Doctor, before William Hartnell. It has been implied since the Tom Baker era that the first Doctor, William Hartnell, was not actually the first Doctor, that there were Doctors before the first Doctor. In the episode The Brain of Morbius, the Doctor had to relive flashes of previous incarnations. Some that we were familiar with, but 8 that we were not familiar with. These faces were meant to imply that the Doctor had previous faces before William Hartnell. The only thing about that is that the TARDIS didn't become a police box until William Hartnell's adventure, so it's a police box now, but if she was before William Hartnell's Doctor, it wouldn't be a police box then. It's just it's a little murky. The fourth option, maybe she's in Whitaker's future, a doctor past Dr. 13. What if Martin is so far in the future that the Time Lords have rebuilt, they've returned, and that she doesn't even know anything about the previous destruction of Gallifrey? Maybe there's been no need for a Sonic in a very long time, she has some forgotten faces, the TARDIS is still a police box. The fifth option, maybe she's the Doctor from an alternate reality. I'm gonna say that this is more likely because this is actually the idea that I had a couple weeks ago. In the first episode of this season where they showed the image of multiple Earths, I thought that this would be a really cool way to introduce a multi-universe Doctor Who story of doctors coming from different universes to help fight different masters, different aliens, that sort of stuff. It would explain the Missy Master conundrum. It would explain having two doctors that both read as doctors. It would also explain Gallifrey being completely fine when the Gallifrey in our universe has been destroyed. And if each universe has its own Gallifrey, then that means that each universe probably has its own Doctor. The sixth option, maybe she's Jenny, the Doctor's daughter. Remember, Jenny is a clone of the Doctor. Maybe she just regenerated. She regenerated. Sorry, this one is not possible. I just really wanted to make that dumb joke. The seventh option, maybe she is the lone Cyberman that Jack warned the Doctor about. We just heard about the lone Cyberman in this episode, the same episode that gave us Martin's Doctor. Could there be a connection? Maybe, but not likely. It's hard to imagine a Cyberman upgrading itself biologically to that of a Time Lord, especially that of the Doctor. The eighth option, maybe she's the Timeless Child. Now I really like this idea because there's a lot of evidence that could be used to back this up. When we talked about the Timeless Child a few weeks ago, the Doctor had that flash of an image of a young child with dark skin with what looked like Gallifreyan robes standing outside what looked like Gallifrey. This would have been well before Gallifrey was destroyed by the Master and around the same time as the Time Lords of old. You know, the ones that were trying to keep the Timeless Child a secret from every other Time Lord. This would have also been the same Time Lords of old that didn't really care about using dirty weaponry to annihilate their enemies. We've seen it before plenty of times in Doctor Who. The Time Lords of old love messing around with very dangerous weaponry. They don't care about casualties at all. So perhaps that's how the Judoon got their hands on a temporal weapon that freezes time and also doesn't care about killing innocent bystanders. The Remnants, the ribbon creatures from last season, described the Timeless Child as the outcast, the abandoned, the unknown. It would make sense that the Time Lords of old would want their deep dark secret brought in and not running around the universe causing chaos. But if Martin is the Timeless Child, then how is Martin the Doctor? Well, if she's outcast, abandoned, unknown, it's not hard to believe that the Time Lords would want to erase her existence from everyone's history. Maybe even that of the Doctor's own past, and the Master probably has something to do with this as well. Remember, the Master's recording said, "We are not who we think, you or I." So maybe every Time Lord has a parallel version. Maybe the Timeless Child can become any Time Lord. The sheer amount of game-changing reveals in this episode, it can feel a little overwhelming. Then, thinking about Jack's message, the Doctor says that something is coming for her. All of these story threads are really starting to come together, and I am very excited. In the comments down below, let me know where you think Martin's Doctor lands on the timeline, if you think she's an alternate version of the Doctor, if you think she's even the Doctor at all. Let me know your thoughts. But that's it for this episode of What Travis Says. My name is Travis. Thank you for listening to what I have to say, and you will see me soon.